You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Earliest things that makes official. Welcome to 16 years, 2,500 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. What a ride it's been, but we just look forward to doubling that number probably next year. I don't know. I'm not doing that many. I'm not doing 2,500 podcasts in a year. People, what do you want from me? You're going to have to wait another 10 years maybe for them. Anyway, guys, as always, we have 2 to 3 wonderful new guests on the show every weekday. So if that doesn't fill your basket, then go back and listen to all 2,500 episodes. Refer your show to family, friends, relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may buy advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success. Today, an amazing young man on the show, we have Lewis McCall with us. He is the author of a book, and I think he's been on once before, and I know that he has multiple books out September 2nd, 2024. That's a lot of twos. Joshua, Slave, Understudy, Warrior, Spy, Successor, Conqueror, and Ruler is the title of his book we'll be talking about today. We'll get into it with him and all that good stuff. And Joshua has been pretty prolific. 6 books that he's taken and written. Dr. Lewis McCall has a PhD from Northwestern University and attended the National War College. He was an assistant professor at the Department of Political Science at the Ohio State University before embarking on a 36 career in the U.S. Department of State as a Foreign Service officer and then as an assistant Inspector General. It was a career that had him live in or work in 60 countries in addition to other countries visited for pleasure. Now retired from government service, he is the author of Christian books and simultaneously serves in lay capacity in many Protestant church and Catholic parishes in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the show, Doctor. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find out about you on the interwebs?
They can find me at LewisMcCallInternational.com, and that's Louis the French way, Louis.
Do they sometimes call that Louise?
I get Louise, I get Lois.
Oh, you get Lois. That's not Lois. That's not how you spell Lois, but yeah, I've been called worse. Most people call me just 4-letter expletives. Tell us about the overview of what's inside this new book.
Well, this is about Joshua, who's quite an individual. He lived to be 110 years old.
Wow.
And his life spanned an amazing period in history. We're talking about a period that goes back nearly 4 millennia.
Wow.
And he starts out as a slave. That wasn't the way it was intended to be, but that was what happened. He was a slave. All of his people were slaves. And then when he reaches 40 years old, Moses comes into the picture at 80 years old and shakes things up, and with the hand of God delivers them out of their bondage in Egypt. Through this time, he becomes the understudy. And I think the word understudy kind of downplays what he does, because he is the right-hand man of Moses. He goes up with him to Mount Sinai several times to meet with God. He actually sees God. He hears God. The first time they go to battle, Moses says, you go out and lead the people. So he's the field marshal. Then when they get to the promised land, he becomes a spy. And there's quite a story in that. Then he succeeds Moses. Moses had a couple of sons, but he didn't turn it over to his sons. There wasn't that kind of thing going on, God told Moses, ordain Joshua in front of the people. And then Moses, shortly after that, dies. He dies because he messed up. And God said, okay, for that, what you did in dishonoring me, you cannot go into the promised land.
Oh.
And so,
forgot.
Yes, but God lets him go up to Mount Nebo and look at it. He can see it. And a couple of years ago, my wife and I went up there to Mount Nebo. And on a clear day, you can see all the way to the Sea of Galilee and out to the Mediterranean Sea.
Oh, wow.
And so he saw it. And the thing, God buried Moses and hid his body. Satan wanted to get that body. So then Joshua is mourning together with the people because Moses was like a god. In fact, God told Moses, I will make you a god to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was considered to be a god. He had all of these other gods. It was a pantheistic situation there. So God showed through Moses what he could do. And he made Moses seem to be a god to them. So Moses dies and they kind of mourn for 30 days. And finally, God says to Joshua, get up. My servant Moses is dead. Now you got to take over. Don't worry. I'm going to be with you. No one will be able to stand against you. And just be courageous. And so Joshua has to get the loyalty of the people because this guy that has been leading them for 40 years out of Egypt and through the desert is dead. And God begins to do great miracles through Joshua. And then he, in a lightning warfare, clears out this promised land, which had been promised to the ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He clears them out, including a bunch of giants. There was a race of giants there. And in some cases, they were the leaders. They were the kings, as you might expect from a person of that kind of stature and position. And then finally, Joshua divides up the land and he rules and he turns over power, kind of like in our history in the United States, George Washington. He led the revolution and he became the first president, but he didn't become president for life, as some people might want to do. Neither did he turn it over to his children. He stepped out of the picture. And that has been a signal event in the history of the United States. Well, that's what Joshua did. He didn't turn it over to his children because he didn't have any. He didn't marry. And he just stepped out of the picture. And it goes on from there. So he was not a king. What he was is he was the intermediary for a theocratic government. And he relied on God. And God told him, I'm going to be with you the same way I was with Moses.
Well, it's good to have God on your board there as your backup, Plus, you can blame him if anything goes wrong. Well, you told me to do this, God. I would have liked.
Well, believe it or not, they did that sometimes. They would complain. They would go back and say, "Why did you put this?
Why did you muck this up, God? What is wrong with you?"
Well, it wasn't quite that bad, but they still complain.
Yeah,
and the people complain, and they paid the consequences. Joshua saw all of this. There were times under Moses where God just opened up the ground, opened up the earth, and swallowed up those that were complaining, closed the earth back up again, and that sort of silenced the doubters and the complainers.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, it's like, oh crap, we made God angry. Darn it.
God actually warned them. He said, I'm going to send my angel with you before you, but watch out because he will not forgive you. Do not make him angry. God warned him, don't make this angel angry.
Note to
self.
self.
Angels don't forgive. God is full of grace and he forgives, but angels don't.
It's angels, man. Who hurt him? So what made you want to write about this particular gentleman?
Well, because he's really a most unusual person. And I thought it was good to cover his whole life. As I said, he lived to be 110 years old. and he did all of the things that he did in the first 108 years. And then he stepped aside. He stepped aside with 2 more years to go. And a lot of people think that he is a forerunner in some ways of Jesus Christ. His name, Joshua, really is the same name as Yeshua, which was the name that Jesus had.
Oh, really?
That's right. And just as Jesus didn't marry and have kids, as some people thought he should have done, Joshua did not either. Okay?
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And so what made him so special for you, where you were just like, I really want to write about this guy? Find what was the curiosity that you had for it that was that made you just, I mean, really attracted to it?
Well, it showed how somebody from extremely humble beginnings as a slave, Moses was different because Moses was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter. And he was raised in all of the understanding of the Egyptians. There are things that the Egyptians did that we still don't understand how they did them. Okay. But he killed someone trying to lead people before God had really called him to do it. And he disappeared as a fugitive for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
But he comes back and they still recognize him because he had been there in the royal palaces and whatnot, you know. Joshua, different story. He starts out as a slave. And the things that he did, which included just a special miracle with the whole solar system. There was one battle that they had to fight over in the promised land in Canaan. And it was a whole alliance of armies that came against them. And he couldn't get it all done before the sun went down. And so he spoke with God. And after speaking to God, it doesn't say what God told him, but he then pointed his spear at the sun and said, "You stand still there." And then he pointed to the moon, said, "You stand still." And he got an extra day of daylight in which they could defeat all of those armies that came against them. So he not only did that, but in the first miracle that he did, which caused people to say, "Wow, this guy is just like Moses." He had them cross the Jordan River to get into the promised land during flood tide. Now, as I said, a couple of years ago, my wife and I went there. We went up to Mount Nebo. From Mount Nebo, you can look down. You see the Dead Sea. You see the Jordan River where it flows into that. It looks like a pretty muddy creek at that point, but it was at flood tide. He had 3 million people, all of their cattle, children and whatnot, and he's supposed to cross this. He didn't have a bridge. He didn't have pontoon boats or anything like that, but God did a miracle for him and shut off the water several miles upstream. And he did what God told him to do. He had the priests take the Ark of the Covenant, which God had instructed Moses to build, and go out into the water, get their feet wet. Not like when Moses split the Red Sea and they go across on dry ground. They had to have faith enough to step out there while the water was still sloshing. And it stops several miles upstream and then dries up where they are, and they all get across, and they take out some big stones, big smooth stones, to make a memorial on the other side to memorialize that crossing. So that was a big miracle of the water. Then he had these lightning military events on the east side of the Jordan. That wasn't the promised land, but they had to defeat those peoples there because those people decided, no, you're not coming through our area. And so he did that. So I was able to get there and look at this myself. You could see from where they would have crossed that it was by the bird's eye, just a straight shot over to Jericho, the first city that they came to fight against. And it was a walled city. Joshua himself didn't know what to do. He had been the field marshal and everything, but he went out there by himself. He went out there and he just trying to figure out, how do you do this? How am I going to do this? This is, they got the high ground. They got these walls. I might lose a lot of people trying to take that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when God comes to him in the form of an angel, and he bows down and worships him, and he tells him what to do. And it works. So as long as he does what God tells him what to do, things work fine. His only mistakes were when he decided he was smart enough to do it on his own.
That'll do it.
And each time he did that, he lived to regret it.
You gotta love it. Gotta love it. Talk to us about, you've had a long and interesting career. You did a lot of things, worked for the government for a long time. That must have led to some pretty interesting insights. What led you to become a writer?
Well, I had always written. I had been a professor, and in the Foreign Service, you write reports all the time.
Yeah.
And as the Assistant Inspector General, I had teams doing reports for me that I did or they did with me, some of which have never seen the light of day because they were that classified. But I wanted to do more. And I told God, I've given enough of my life to the Department of State. I'd like to work for you. And so that door opened, and that's when I began to write.
Well, that's pretty awesome then. So did you meet people on the way that made an impression on you? I'm sure you did. It seems kind of obvious, but did that make an impression in your writing maybe?
Absolutely. I met people who were in missionary and Christian circles, were just world renowned. And I still have some of those contacts. Some of them have passed on. And, you know, I'm just moved by what was done with them, even though they themselves were very humble. And that is what was said about Moses. God called Moses the meekest man on earth. Moses had a temper, though, and that's what got him in trouble.
That'll do it. I don't know why anybody argues with God. What's that about, man?
Yeah, well, we're human.
Yeah.
And fortunately, God recognizes that, as the Bible says, we are dust. Okay.
It's probably where we're going to end up at this pace. So, yeah, gotta love it. So it should be interesting there. Yeah. When did you decide to write a book about God himself? I believe, is that one of the 6 books that you have?
Yes, it is. It's called The Epic of God. And I believe we'll be meeting and talking about that
okay, cool.
before too long.
The Epic of God.
That's right.
And so all 6 of your books are Christian books written about God and some of the aspects of the Bible, correct?
They are, although the first book was more of what we call a devotional. So it's a little bit of the story of my own life and helping people to understand God and how to pray, how to talk to God and receive answers for your prayers.
That's a good idea. And so is that which book is that in where you've got your memoir? The title of it.
It's called According to Your Word, Lord, I Pray. And the key there is praying what you see in the Bible, using God's promises, what he has said, and converting that into a prayer, using that as the basis of your prayer and speaking it out loud and also having the faith to believe it.
It's good to have that. And what else do we have here? Now, sometimes I have notes here. You provide details not found in the Bible. How do you justify? Maybe this is like historical fiction, maybe, or?
I call this biblical historical fiction because, yes, I'm reading between the lines. There's a lot of stuff that happens that is not written in the Bible. And so I use my literary license to fill that in. So obviously some dialogue is straight from scripture, which I paraphrase into the modern colloquial English, and others are what I believe may have happened, just to fill it out. You know, once the disciple John said of Jesus that the whole world could not contain all of the books that could be written about him and what he did.
Let's see here. You wrote that what many would call prehistory. And what is that? And how did you utilize it?
That is more in the book, The Epic of God.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What we were doing here with Joshua, as I said, we're covering a period of almost 4 millennia. Okay. And I uncovered some things through my travels in Egypt and in Jordan and Israel that are not clear in the Bible, but are historical.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, the woman that became the adopted mother of Moses became a Pharaoh herself. She was the daughter of Pharaoh. In fact, she gave Moses the name that was related to the name of her father. Her father's name was Moses. And so she called this baby Moses, sort of in honor of her father. But her father didn't have a son, and not until late. And it wasn't by her mother. He had to get a secondary wife who wasn't the queen, who finally gave him a son. So what this meant was after he died, Moses's adopted mother, Hatshepsut, became Pharaoh, and she even wore a beard. She would glue a beard on herself so that she would look like a man. And there are statues of her, mostly with this beard. And that is completely different from the story that most people think about Moses. They're thinking of Cecil B. DeMille's and the 10 Commandments. Well,
yeah.
A lot of stuff in there is wrong.
Charlton Heston, the movie there.
That's right. So that was important. And that was one reason why Moses could still be recognized when he came back after 40 years in exile. You know, they still respected the man.
Yeah, fun is fun. And I didn't know all that. You wrote in one of your books about time after time being the past, and imagining a future. Tell us about that and how you utilize that in your storytelling.
Well, again, that's in the next book, The Epic of God. So we might want to save that.
Okay, we'll save that till that thing. So tell us about your upbringing. Did you grow up in the church? Did you grow up religious? What were some of the things that influenced you or got you into religion if you didn't grow up in it?
I grew up in a rough neighborhood, to say the least. There were gangs. Those gangs still occupy Chicago. They fought against each other. They are into big crime. But at an early age, I became attracted by God. And so I professed publicly my belief at the age of 7 and was baptized.
Oh, wow.
And the next year, when I was 8 years old, I became paralyzed from my waist down.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I was in the hospital. And this is where praying the word of God comes in. I was 8 years old. And one night I'm there in the hospital. There's this little naked light bulb out in the hall. And I remembered the story of King Hezekiah, who turned his face toward the wall and prayed. I did that. I'm 8 years old. I turned my face toward the wall and I prayed. And a couple of mornings later, I woke up and it looked like my big toe moved. And I tried to wiggle it. I could wiggle it. I could wiggle the others. And within a minute, I was bouncing up and down in the bed. I had a miracle healing.
Wow.
And it was so amazing that a few days later, the hospital put me in a wheelchair and rolled me into an amphitheater filled with doctors and interns. It was all dark except for the light that was on me. And they talked about little me and what had happened because they couldn't explain it.
Wow. I'm like, what's going on with this kid? That must have been kind of surreal, really.
It was. And for an 8-year-old, it was quite scary. And doctors were not helping that at all because
just put a spotlight on you. And
I had something called rheumatic fever.
Okay.
And as a young child, the doctor told me that if I got a strep throat again, that I might turn into like a 90-year-old man.
Oh, wow.
And that scared the heck out of me.
I'll do it.
But I lived through it.
It's kind of like life, man. You just got to live through it. That's my motto. Wake up every day and see if you're still around. As long as you're up and breathing, you're probably moving in the right direction. Run with it. As you write these books, what's the future hold for you? Are you going to write more about the different aspects, or do you see maybe some book twos on some of the stuff you're writing about?
Well, my next book, which will come out later this year, is on David, who starts out as a shepherd boy who is somewhat despised by his family and becomes not only king, but he becomes emperor. He expands the kingdom of Israel to the borders that God had promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He did that. And a special thing about him is that when Moses came with Joshua and the 2 to 3 million people that they had out of Egypt, strangely enough, they were led by God. In the daytime, it was a pillar of cloud, and at night, it was a pillar of fire. And people could see this. It scared them. Because they were led by that, they went down the long way. They didn't cut across, which would have taken them through the land of the Philistines. And the story of Goliath and the other giants that were there. God deliberately did not have them take the shortcut and go that way because they were just coming out of slavery. They didn't have any weapons. They weren't experienced in warfare. And so he has them come down this other way. And when Joshua clears out the land and his lightning military battles, he does not go to the Philistines. They were not considered Canaanites. Okay. He got the Canaanites, but not the Philistines. The Philistines were never mentioned by God when he went through the list of the Canaanites.
Yeah. They owed him money, so he wasn't too happy with them.
In God's providence, he left that for David. So that several hundred years later, David comes and he gets the assignment to take them out.
That will do it. So do you anticipate, how many books do you anticipate writing? Do you have a slate that you're working on?
Oh, I have another one already teed up that I'll be working on. And my process is to wait for inspiration.
Yeah, that's always good to have. That gives you that juice.
Yes, and it means I don't have to fret or worry about it.
No, you don't have to force it, right? Just
That's right. And then when I get that inspiration, I look for confirmation. I look for other things to let me know that this is the right path. There actually is a scripture in Isaiah who was a prophet in the Bible, and what he said there, and it was from God, saying that you will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk this way." And that's my process.
Well, that sounds like a good process that works for you. How long have you been writing books total?
Since 2014. I'm a slow writer. I have a dear friend who has written 25 books, a number of New York Times bestsellers, and he's done very, very well. And so he's sort of a model for me of how to do things.
Yeah. That's very good. So any other things we want to touch on? Maybe services that you offer on your website, any coaching, consulting, any other things you want to plug while we have you on the show?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I just want people to get into my website and into my online bookstore and take a look at I have pictures from my life, things that we've done. But these books, I think, are they're life inspiring, and particularly the first book on prayer. I think it is a manual that some of my friends who have purchased the book say they keep on their nightstand and read regularly for the wisdom that's there.
Yeah, it's good to have good wisdom. Do you ever hear from people that read your books and stuff? Do they write you, or can they write you and reach out to you?
They can write me through my website, and I do hear from people. You talk about wisdom. What the Bible says, and it's in Proverbs, is that wisdom is the principal thing.
Definitely. Wisdom is really important. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Louis. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Chris. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Give us your .coms one last time so people can find you on the interwebs.
It is LewisMcCallInternational.com.
Thank you very much, Louis. Thanks for tuning in. Order up his books wherever fine books are sold. Joshua, Slave, Understudy, Warrior, Spy, Successor, Conqueror, and Ruler, out September 2nd, 2024 by Louis McCall. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that's just out.